Hello and welcome back to Added Time, the podcast that brings you up to date with everything happening in the women's football world. And there is so much to discuss this week. An imaginary handball that happened after a corner that wasn't a corner, a shake-up at the top of the table, and of course, some very, very good goals. Alongside me, as ever, two names that are firmly printed into the WSL history books. Two of the very best in the biz. Fran Kirby and Beth England. Hello. How are you two doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. How about you, Beth?
Yeah, all good here. Thank you.
Come on, I think we need to get this out of the way. You're a little bit conscious of your background after what your mum said. Come on, get it out
Oh,
there.
yeah, it's my mum. She said that green and red shouldn't go, so she's scolded me a bit for me bedding. So on the next episode, I'm gonna have to make sure it's green and matches walls. I think it goes with the theme of England and stuff, but yeah, mums are always right, so I'll get it changed next time.
We need to get cracking. There is a lot to dig into this week. And I guess the best place to start is with the game that certainly got a lot of people talking, a huge London derby at the Emirates. And that rivalry, oh my goodness me, it is well and truly alive between Arsenal and Chelsea. The atmosphere was really loud, 56,000 fans in the end who brought their A game. But I think it's safe to say that maybe the ref didn't. A few errors in that game. And look, it does happen. High pressure situations, but it really did feel like there were some shockers in there. And these could have, really big repercussions, whether that's for the league in the end, the Champions League places, all of that kind of stuff. Our group chat was certainly pretty lively during that game. What was your take on the game, Fran?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was two really high top quality teams going at each other. I think Chelsea probably started the game a lot brighter. And then towards kind of the end of the first half, I saw Arsenal picking up a little bit. And then obviously the second half, I felt Arsenal dominated the game, really. I think Chelsea really struggled to play out from the back. I felt like they couldn't, string the passes together that they're so used to doing. But I mean, yeah, I think obviously the talking points at the end, unfortunately, were about the officials rather than the quality that you did see in the game. But I mean, I think it's like you said, Abby, like people make mistakes. It's going to happen. It's human error. And, you're looking at the mistakes that the ref made. Okay, it's not a handball. It should have stood. And of course, people go, well, it wasn't a corner. But, Chelsea had time to defend the corner. I'd understand if it had come off someone and gone in the goal or whatever. But, there was a change in the play, in the status of the play. Alyssa Russo's goal to me looked offside. So that's another one that you're looking at going, should it have been a goal? I think the one you can kind of give the officials in terms of it's the Marnham goal, because you're looking at it and you're going, is she offside? Is she not offside? Like, it's very, very close. So for that one, I think you can kind of say, right, okay, the lino has seen something that not everyone else has, put her flag up. She's been brave with the decision. So that one, I'm kind of like, okay. But to me, the handball one, that for me is, you you can normally tell by the reaction of the other players. And there was not one Chelsea player that appealed for this. Everyone was looking at Blackstenius. There was nothing else happening in the game. There was no other movement. There was no other challenge. Every single player was looking at Blackstenius, and you can see the Chelsea players when the ball hits the back of the net, they're deflated. You see Lucy Bronze, hands on her knees. She's not up in the air. If she thinks it's a handball, she is going off, and that for me was a massive sign. And I still thought it was a goal, because I hadn't realised that the ref had blown for a handball because they didn't change the scoreline on Sky. So I was messaging like, oh, it's 1-1. But then they went, no, it's a disallowed goal. I was like, no, it's still 1-1. And then I didn't even know that, because I was like, it's no way that it was disallowed. So yeah, I think unfortunately the ref took more of the attention away than the game did. And as well, I think if you're looking at the Palova challenge on Kira Walsh,
Oh,
That's another one where if you go into VAR, you're probably looking at possibly a red card, especially, of course, in the state of the game. She's obviously not meant to go in that high. We all know that. We all know a player's not going to go in that high. But when you slow it down, it's in slow motion. You see where the contact is on Kira Walsh's leg. So then another thing you're looking at is should it have been a red card, which is another big decision to make in a London derby as well. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think the officials took away the shine of the game. But like I said, people make mistakes. It may have ruined Arsenal's chances of staying in the title race, which is obviously a massive factor as well. But yeah, hopefully they can watch the game back, they can learn from it and reflect and, improve going forward.
yeah, you can understand why Arsenal fans will be fuming. As you say, that might be their kind of league chances done. I mean, never say never, but I think this game has got so many people talking, but the refereeing across the league needs to be better, doesn't it? These are two kind of title contenders, but there needs to just be that energy across the board. I know that there is funding going into training up new referees. So the next generation maybe are going to be sort of stronger, but it must be so frustrating at times. I'm sure you've both had God knows how many incidents as players where you're thinking, "Oh, I'm not sure that call's quite right," but, you have to take it on the chin. And I guess it's got people talking about, VAR, should that be introduced in the WSL? What kind of things do we look at? What's your take on that, Beth? Are you quite happy that it's not in the game at the moment, or what do you think?
Oof, I think it's a very controversial assessment because we've obviously seen it in the men's game where when it goes well, but when it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong. And as Fran touched on, it possibly not having that ruined the derby and cost probably one team points more than the other. I think it's challenging when referees, like, we all make mistakes in our jobs, like, we're all human. Why I don't always make a perfect pass like other people don't, but the problem is that every single decision they make is, and they're under such pressure to get it right, and naturally we are going to expect some decisions not to go our way. But when there are such big decisions like were made that change completely the trajectory of the game, like you say, it's not just even about the goals. The potential red card on Kira Walsh is, like, again, no player knows they're going in to hurt anyone, but it was reckless. And I think these are defining moments for teams in their season. And that was two huge points that probably were lost due to not much fault of their own. But I think I'd like to try it. We've obviously seen it happen in tournaments. We had it in the World Cup. And like, again, at points it worked for us, at points it didn't work for us. I think there's definitely questions on how accurate is it, and do we want it to come into our women's game yet before we're seeing more consistent results of it in the men's game. I'm not saying it has to be trial and error, but I do think, just like refereeing, VAR also holds its controversy. It slows the game down, it stops momentum, and it can actually ruin the atmosphere for fans when celebrating a goal because you can be stood waiting there up to 10 minutes just to check every toenail that may or may not be offside. So I think with some aspects, you're like, yeah, we want VAR because we think it would have worked in our favour. If VAR would have come to the exact same conclusion as the referees, we would have still been having the same conversations and the same kickoffs saying VAR's ruined the game. So you're never going to please everyone, but I think there's no harm in trialing it and seeing where we can get from it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on that front. Anyway, enough about referees. Let's talk about the football. That's what we love to do. And to use a massive football cliche, it really was a game of two halves, wasn't it? Chelsea completely dominated in the first half. Probably should have capitalised really on that momentum and netted some of those chances. They could have been maybe 3 or 4 nil up, but then the second half was just all about Arsenal. The energy from their fans was amazing, and I think the fact that they felt kind of wronged made them wanna kinda go out there and prove a point as well. So what did you guys think of both teams' performances?
We all know that it's going to be quite cagey. It's going to be a cagey game going into it. Both teams obviously not wanting to make a mistake, not concede first. And the first half, it was interesting because it just looked like Chelsea had come into it with so much confidence. And it looked like they knew what their game plan was. They knew what was going to work for them. And obviously, Alyssa Thompson's goal, where she just drives with it all the way through. You could see as soon as she got the ball, the Arsenal players were like, we can't get too tight to her because she's so fast. And she just kept going and going and going. And then by the point, I think someone tried to engage. I think it was Lotta who stepped out, but then kind of just went straight back into the back line because she was worried that she was going to run off her shoulder because she was so fast. So I actually felt it was really intelligent play from Thompson, because I felt she releases the ball, but Lotta's kind of carried on her run to get back into the back line, thinking that she's going to make a forward run, but she actually just stops. And so many times in football, I try and say, especially the young players coming through, sometimes just stand still, because everyone else is moving around you. They're running around you. They're running to get back into shape. They're doing all these things. Just stand still and you'll probably find yourself the most unmarked player on the pitch. And that's exactly what happened in that moment. She didn't go and run in for the cross. She just held where she was. I mean, I don't think she got the most perfect contact on the finish. I think she kind of like slices it a little bit. But if she does get full contact, maybe it doesn't end up in the back of the net. So, it's one of them ones where it's a fantastic finish. Whether she meant the finish to go that way or not, we don't know. But it's a really good finish. And you could see the passion that she had after she scored it. I think I've seen a couple of pictures as well after it, and you can just see the joy in her face, seeing that the goal has gone in. So that was really nice to see. But then for me, it just looked like Chelsea ran out of ideas. It was like Arsenal started to high press them quite aggressively. You saw that Chelsea were turning the ball over in their own box a couple of times. They just couldn't quite find a rhythm after, they started so well. And I think if you're looking at the game, bar the referee's decisions or whatever, I think Arsenal will be most disappointed that they couldn't take something from, especially from their second half, because it was just wave after wave after wave of attack from them. So definitely a game of two halves. Really enjoyed Alyssa Thompson's goal, and Russo's goal as well was a good finish. Perhaps offside. I actually thought Blackstenius' finish was really good, even though obviously it was called off. And I think, there's a lot of talk around her in terms of finishing them chances that she gets. And, she smashes that one into the top corner, obviously didn't count. But you can see that there are things happening for Arsenal now. The way that they're moving, the fluidity, the chances that they create. And Olivia Smith, coming back from injury, looked really sharp when she came on, and she just got the ball and just drive past Niamh Charles a couple of times. So yeah, it was definitely a tale of two halves, but I do think Arsenal will be more disappointed to come away with the draw rather than taking 3 points, opposed to Chelsea, who I think, still unbeaten, away from home in a derby in front of 56,000 people. We're going, right, okay, we'll take a point and we'll move on to the next game.
Yeah, you know what? Probably box office viewing for a neutral. I was not enjoying it as a Chelsea fan. What was your assessment of the game, Beth?
I thought the finish looked really beautiful, actually, the way she she almost caressed it across, because some of our girls were questioning if it was a cross, and I was like, I definitely believe she meant it, and it was a fantastic finish. And you, again, like Fran said, the passion you see when she scored, like that's a new player coming into our league, knowing what it means to play in a London derby like that. That's what you want. You want to see that fight, that passion. Coming off the back of that, Arsenal definitely in the second half turn the tables. As we've mentioned, obviously, the refereeing decisions, if Arsenal go down to 10, are they able to put on the high press the way they did, the way they were able to rock Chelsea's back line? Would they have gained so much momentum? Probably not. And that probably would have allowed Chelsea to settle more on the ball, play the style of football that they want to play, as opposed to not panicking. But again, they didn't really find solutions against their high press. And I think, to be honest, seeing Blackstenius and Russo are actually working really well together. I know it's always been a debate of who should start or the other. Obviously, Alessia's hold-up play is fantastic. She can still do the runs in behind, but her link-up play, her build-up, her creativity is one of her strengths. Blackstenius is much more of a willing runner, and I think they are actually complementing each other rather well. And as Fran touched on, seeing Blackstenius have the composure to finish those chances, which before she's had a lot of criticism for, was also nice, but then I guess disappointing because it got ruled out. So it's one of them where it's not down on the stats, but you know what she's capable of. Arsenal in the past have always struggled to beat Chelsea, and I think that was the game where the time in the season where they thought this is where we need these points, and they've always. I'm not saying they've not beaten Chelsea before, but 9 times out of 10 Chelsea do come out on top, and I think this was the game where those points were make or break to define parts of their season. Anything can happen in football. I don't think Chelsea's second half showcased anywhere near what they're capable of, but it's showing that even when they're not at their best, they can still hold out. And that's why Chelsea have always won things. And teams like Arsenal, Man United, Man City, and any other team really need to start and kill off Chelsea when they're not playing well. And unfortunately, teams aren't finding ways to do that. So I think it was great for a neutral. I think you're seeing end-to-end stuff, a lot of controversy, goals here and there. But as Fran touched on, I think Arsenal are definitely going to be the most disappointed coming off the back of that game.
Yeah, I do agree though. Maybe Chelsea haven't been completely convincing in their last few games, as much as that hurts my heart to say. So that does make things interesting for the league and, you know, the upcoming games. But let's move on to the Man United game. Obviously, their unbeaten run came to an end with Villa beating them 1-0. And I was quite surprised, if I'm honest, when I saw the starting lineup, because I was like, loads of their informed players weren't starting. No Sandberg, Mallard, Parks. I'm just thinking the manager was probably thinking, hang on a minute, we've got a big Champions League game coming up against PSG. And then I've just looked it up. That's then followed by the Manchester derby. So a huge week for them, Fran.
Yeah, massive. And, you know, it was a talking point at the beginning of the season when we were talking about Manchester United going into that Champions League and going into them fixtures of playing on the Sunday, playing on the Wednesday, playing on the Sunday, playing on the Wednesday. And there has to be a respite somewhere for these players. And this is where we're talking about the squad depth and what players you can bring in. And, you know, Manchester United have very, very good players. So you're looking at it going, okay, I think there was maybe too many changes to the starting 11 going into that game. Was it a little bit of naivety? I don't think anyone has that in this league anymore. I don't think teams go into games going, Aston Villa aren't going to quite be at the level, so, you know, we can make all these changes. But it just gave me a sense of that we're prioritising the Champions League. That's how I viewed it in terms of how they approached the game, how they went into the game. And ultimately as well, when you are the opposition, I think now me and Beth can kind of feel that way because we were at Chelsea for so many years and playing in Champions League, that when you play against a team that's playing in the Champions League and they make them that many changes, you sit there in the changing room and you go, we've got a chance here. Like they don't have the rhythm that all these girls who are playing week in, week out have. We have a bit of a chance here to, you know, cause a bit of an upset. And I can imagine that Aston Villa changing room at the beginning of the game was going, they are not really thinking about our game. Their eyes are already on the Champions League. Let's do something here and let's get after them a little bit. And that's exactly what they did. And Aston Villa, they have a team full of energy, full of players who can run, who are willing runners, who work hard, who are aggressive, who probably saw themselves as an underdog going into the game and felt, right, let's get something out of it. And for them to keep a clean sheet against Manchester United as well, I think was a massive result for them, as well as getting the 3 points. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how the season goes for Manchester United, because do they rotate again for this weekend against City? They can't really, because we all know in this league that if you slip up too much, you're never going to catch up. And being 6 points is a big jump as well. You know, everyone says, you know, the league, you know, it's so many more games, it's only halfway through or whatever. But then you're relying on someone else to mess up. You're relying on Chelsea to mess up. You're relying now on Manchester City to mess up. And it's very unlikely that they're going to mess up more than once. You know, you could have seen Saturday, for the Arsenal game of Chelsea messing up. They didn't. So then you're looking at the rest of the fixtures going, where else are they going to slip up? And it's very unlikely that's going to happen. So, yes, I think there's a lot of pressure on Manchester United now in the next couple of weeks to build themselves up throughout the week, get some good results in Champions League, good results in the WSL, and he's going to have to rotate. He's going to have to. So, you know, he has to find a way to rotate the players in to keep the momentum going, but not that there's a dip in the performance. But, I mean, hats off to Aston Villa as well, you know, scoring a fantastic goal, Miri Taylor, nice little side volley. And like I said, keeping a clean sheet, that I'm sure that they're absolutely delighted and just building the confidence as the week goes on.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. We should give, you know, credit to Villa, shouldn't we really, Beth? They've only lost one game in their last 14, winning 8 of those. It feels like, you know, they are getting some consistency now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they just showed no fear. They took the game straight to them. As Fran mentioned, the finish from Miri Taylor was beautifully done. And I think it almost probably put Man United on the back foot, thinking, actually, we've gone behind here. And then they even looked like they went into panic mode of like, we're forcing the ball long now. We're not actually building the way we want to build because we're actually chasing. And as we've seen with Man United season, they've not often been in behind. Like they've been getting that first goal, they're getting in front. We've seen the odds slip up, and again, you can't slip up that many times where you think the other top teams are going to make that many mistakes because, as Fran said, that gap's just going to get bigger. And relying on other teams to mess up is not a fun place to be in. But credit to Aston Villa because, yeah, I think they've probably gone under the radar a little bit. I know lower down towards the bottom of the table, there's obviously West Ham and Liverpool that were chasing their first few points. But I think Villa definitely had confidence going into the game, and they certainly showcased that and didn't show any fear towards Man United. And yeah, I think they've really caused a bit of an upset.
Definitely. Big performance from Villa, and we'll see how Man United get on in the Champions League. And we're treating everyone this week because we are doing a double pod release. We will be discussing all the Champions League games, so make sure you tune in for that on Friday. But for now, let's move on to the Everton-Man City game, which had some beautiful goals, I must say. The first one fired in by Miedemar, now scored 90 goals in the WSL. Obviously, she's been the record goal scorer for a while now in the WSL. I mean, when she's at her best, she is just unbelievable, isn't she? Like, she is a goat.
Yeah, she's been an incredible servant to the league. That's for sure. In terms of her performances, in terms of her goals, her attitude as well. I think she came into the league and she was just this very cool, like laid back kind of character. Scored a goal, wouldn't really celebrate. Like it was just something different that came into the league, and she really just when she's firing and when she's in the position, 9 times out of 10 the ball's going to end up in the back of the net. And what I really liked about the goal that she did score was she was on the back line. She was in between the two centre backs. She didn't come low to get the ball. She trusted that the ball was, and it was a perfect pass. The assist was delicious. I would love to play them passes, that's for sure. And for me, it just looked like Miedemar back in the Arsenal days where she was being torrid with the centre backs. They were looking over their shoulder. They didn't know where she was. And she just peels off at the right time. Whether the pass makes the run, we don't know if she really wanted to come and get the ball to feet, but she's so dangerous in the box. And the finish as well, you're looking at it and you're going, nine times out of 10, the striker goes across the goalkeeper because they know that the goalkeeper's coming out. But she just sees the goalkeeper as she's going. She sees that she's slightly closing off that shot. And she just curls it round the other way. And you're looking at it going, that's a number 9's finish. That's a proper number 9 who's got the composure, got two defenders coming up, the goalkeeper's coming. You've managed to look up going, right, okay, you're going that way. I'm just going to pass it that way then. And it just looked like Miedemar of the goal scorer, the one in around the box. And yeah, I was really happy for her because I think obviously, there's a lot of talk about her scoring goals. What's her best position now? Obviously the injuries that she's had. So, you know, there's a lot of pressure on these players who have scored so many goals throughout their career. And then, you slowly start to maybe not score as many, not be able to kind of impact the game as much as you used to, but still turn up with the goods, still score, whether it's one every 3 games, one every 2 games, maybe it's not one every game, but always there and always present and always, building them goals up through the season. And she is one of them players. And hopefully she's able to stay fit and help Manchester City throughout the season, especially with them not having Champions League, being able to have that rest, being able to rotate in the cup. So yeah, it was really nice to see that kind of finish from her again, because I haven't seen her all the time in and around the penalty box as much as, how she used to play.
Yeah, totally. You know what? We've not seen her best really, have we, for City? But if she gets back to the levels we know she's got in the locker, it's pretty terrifying for the rest of the league, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've said it. She is the GOAT. I mean, you look at the amount of goals she scored in the appearances. It's frightening numbers. I mean, I know, but I've been chasing that record for years. And let me tell you, she lets me get with like a little sniff and then off she goes and she scores a few more goals and extends that gap. But there's no better person I'd rather chase, because she just epitomizes what a goal scorer should be. I think, like, there's been questions at time, or I would say, on whether she can do the defensive work, but when you've got a player like that who's so good technically, finds the right spaces, and as Fran mentioned, there is pressure to score, but I'm looking at her last few games and she picks up assists, like she plays in some lovely balls. So as a forward player, it's not always about goals. Don't get me wrong. Being forward players like me and Fran are, we love goals, but the assists sometimes can equally be just as amazing to get. So I feel like she is a very creative player. She's key for Man City, and I think, as Fran said, keeping her fit, keeping her on the pitch is going to help City potentially be title contenders this year, because they do look threatening. They've got an abundance of goal scorers across that front line. You've obviously got the likes of Bunny as well coming off when she pulls it off. You know, when she's on her day, she's on her day. So I think having that relationship where she can get higher or come deep, you just know the quality you're going to get. And we are starting to see her come back to her best. But if Man City can keep her fit and readily available, I think they're seriously going to contend this year for the title with the performances that they've been putting in. But yeah, I mean, credit to her. Long may it continue.
Also, a moment for Gargo's goal as well. That was top tier, like proper cheeky flick. And we were saying on the pod last week, weren't we, how much we just love, the flair she brings to games. I think our ears were burning, and we made her put in such an amazing.
She knew.
Yeah, and then Bunny Shaw, as you mentioned, she missed a chance in the first half, and that great header in the second half. She's not messing around. So City now top of the table, I should say, with 21 points, 1 point above Chelsea, 4 above United. Their squad depth, maybe the best it's been for a while. Like you're saying, if everyone stays fit, the likes of Miedemar, Hemp coming back, no Champions League football to focus on. You've got to see them, haven't you, as a title contender?
This year, the most important thing for them is keeping their players fit. I think in previous years, they've had an injury crisis where everyone has been injured at the same time, and it's just derailed their season. Of course, you can't always help injuries. Everyone knows this. You can't, take into account that Lauren Hemp's going to hurt her ankle against Tottenham. Of course, you don't know that these things are going to happen, but it's so important for them because the players that they can play are top tier players. So if you take one of them out, yes, okay, you have some, but then you have to take another one out and then another one out. And if you lose 3 or 4, you're starting to scratch a little bit going, what else do we have to bring in here? So for me, that's a really important thing that they have to do this season. But what I do like about Man City this year is their ability to grind results out. I think previously you would have seen the game the other day, 1-1 Everton, maybe they don't get themselves ahead. Against us, against Brighton, being able to come back from 1-0 down, keep plugging away, come away with that win. They're grinding out results, which I don't think they have done previously. And that's going to matter in the end run in terms of picking up these 3 points. It doesn't have to be 3, 4, 5-0 every week. You just need to keep picking up them 3 points because you're looking at the table and not many teams are winning by more than 3 goals. I think maybe Arsenal had 1, but the goal difference is not going to be as probably dramatic it has been in previous years. There's going to be a one-off game where someone scores 5 or whatever. Like, you're going to get them. Sorry, Beth, I actually wasn't thinking about you.
Yeah. Just twist that knife in a bit more. It's fine. Against Man City as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I actually thought about it as it was in my head. I was like, oh no,
there she goes. Stop. Thank you.
But these things are going to happen, but it's not going to happen every week for these teams. So to get the 3 points is the most important thing, and they're doing that at the moment. And going ahead of Chelsea shows how much they are trying to compete with them, and they're ready to go head to head. And if they beat Manchester United next weekend, beating another competitor, beating Arsenal, beating Manchester United, you're looking at it going, we're in a really good spot here. We just have to keep building and keep growing. But hopefully they keep finding their form, keep building the relationships, keep building what they've got there. And yeah, I mean, I have no reason to not look at their team and go, yeah, they definitely have a chance here to go and win the title. But they have to keep the consistency. They have to keep, not conceding goals and winning these games because that's really, really important.
Okay, Beth, let's jump into your game. Spurs taking on London City Lionesses at their home ground. Finished 4-2 to them in the end. And look, it was a great game to watch. I can't lie. There was a lot of action in it, but a tough one for your side in the end.
They were obviously able to open up our defence more than we'd have liked. What I was quite impressed with was their pace. In their forward line, it was quite threatening, but it's disappointing because I know how great our defensive line is, how hard we've been working this season on making sure that we're keeping cleaner sheets, less goals out the net. And it's not just to say it's the defensive line that's at fault. There's 11 players on that pitch that all have to do their job, and when one doesn't do their job, it has a knock-on effect back to front. Again, we can say there's some questionable decisions. I think there's definitely an opportunity where we should have probably had another penalty. And there was a few tackles that were flying in. Uh, and I mean, like, obviously, I know it was for Nikita on her 200th WSL appearance, was she getting that goal? But then again, is the referee looking at the follow through? Like, our keepers come out with studded face, blooded nose, and I get these things can happen, but again, are we looking at the safety for players? I'm not sure. It's just disappointing because I think we all know how hard we've been working, and I wouldn't have said we're going into the game one particular team would have been favourites. I think obviously we know London City are a new team. They've brought in a lot of players where they're wanting to gel them soon, but I'm just disappointed that we weren't able to do more in the game and showcase how good we've got in terms of our style of play. I think London City was so aggressive in their press. They went player for player, and I think that definitely disrupted us more than we'd have liked to. I mean, the penalty we scored, great penalty. The free kick, great free kick.
Very
And we did create chances, and it's sad that we didn't get more goals from open play, and that they did come from a penalty and a free kick. But I'm just disappointed. I'm just gutted because obviously I want the points. I want us to keep climbing up the table, but I don't think it should knock us in our confidence in what we're still trying to build and achieve and going into next week, which is going to be this week, sorry, which is going to be a big London derby.
Oh, yeah, you must be pumped up for that. North London derby. Don't really get any bigger, does it?
No, obviously I love derbies. I think the biggest rivalries are what makes the games juicy, and I think the fans get heated and you can really see the tension. Obviously you want to be on the right side of the derby when that result comes in. It's just about getting our heads down. We learned a lot from that London City game, and for sure it's not something that's going to knock us back. We're definitely striving forward for the game.
One player I did love watching in the Spurs London City Lionesses game, apart from Beth England, I mean, what a player, am I right, was Freya Godfrey. She was on fire, scored
Yeah.
2 goals, an assist for Nikita Paris's goal. Really, like, promising young player by the looks of it. What do you think, Fran?
I think she looks really exciting. You know, obviously you see players signing for London City, a lot of young talent going there, and you're looking at them and going, okay, are they going to get their chance in the WSL? How are they going to fare in it? And you know, she took that opportunity and she grabbed it with both hands, and you know, scoring 2 goals against, you know, a team that's in the top 4 at the moment, you know, it's really impressive. It's really, you know, she's come into the game full of confidence, and you know, obviously, you know, Beth spoke about Nikita's goal, but the ball in, you know,
Yeah.
it's gone through it's gone to such a dangerous area. It's one of them ones where you don't need to even look up. You just hit it into the area and you just give your forward something to go and attack, and that's exactly what she did. And yeah, I always find it really exciting to see these young players coming through and assert themselves on these big games, because there's so many young players that you see in training or you hear about, and you hear all these things, these stories of great talent coming through. Then they go out on the pitch and they freeze a little bit. And you know, of course, there's always that element of they're young, they're coming through, experience, a bit nervous. But you know, when you see a player come in and just take the opportunity, and to take it the way that she did in terms of the 2 goals, in terms of an assist, it wasn't just she had a great game. No, she had stats off the back of it. And of course, you know, it's not always about that, but being able to have that to back up your performance at a young age is really, really important for her in terms of her growth and her confidence going into the next few games. So I hope she gets a run. in the team. I think he's been rotating the team a little bit, trying to figure out what his best team looks like, because obviously they made so many signings. But I think now, to give someone like that who's got the confidence, just give them a run of games and see what else they can give you, because she obviously can provide.
Yeah, exactly. Going to be exciting to watch her for sure. So the weekend just gone, obviously I was flicking between that game and then watching you and Brighton, Fran, because obviously I can't have favourites. I've got to talk to you both on the podcast. And Fran, you guys left it late to equalise, but you did do it 3 minutes into extra time. Do you think a point was probably fair in the end for that game?
Yes and no. I think it's difficult, because when you're playing in it and you feel the game, you probably feel it a lot different to maybe what everyone's watching. And I think it's very similar to how Beth was describing her game in terms of the transition. It didn't really feel like anyone got hold of the game, and really, I think we did in the second half, but that's because they were defending a 1-0 lead. So of course, they're going to drop lower. They're going to probably give up possession a little bit. But, we're looking at the first half. We had 2 or 3 really big chances. We hit the crossbar. We can't quite get it in. I had one cleared off the line in the second half. We had a 1v1 that was also, saved. So, I'm looking at kind of the big chances created, and I felt that we deserved a bit more from the game. But I do think Liverpool play some really, really nice football. And the way that they play through the lines, the way that they can slide the passes through their goal, it's not great defending from us. If we're going to really break it down, but pass through into the middle, midfielder turns, lovely, lovely weighted pass through, just completely splits about 3 players. And then they get a cross in, and, a goal happens. But I was really, really impressed with Fuka Nagano. I thought she was really, really instrumental for them against us the other day. I think she ran the game. She was definitely the best player on the pitch. And the way that her weight of pass, the way that she plays through the lines, and you can see the way Liverpool wants to play. We nicked it a couple of times in dangerous areas, which could have punished them. I think my only thing we're going back to the officials again. And I know everyone's going to sit there and say, well, you would do it if you had the chance. But I think because people are getting away with it so much, of course you're going to do it. It's the time wasting. For me, it's becoming a really big problem in the WSL in terms of a team scores a goal and the time wasting from the 30th minute. And, I'm looking at it, I'm going, every season, disclaimer here, the refs come in and they do a presentation to every team. And one thing that they've said is they've wanted to stop time wasting. And it's been a big part of their game in terms of, okay, we're counting now when the goalkeeper has the ball in their hand. We're counting if you kick the ball away. We're doing all of these things. But, I'm seeing players take 30 seconds to take a throw in, and seeing 30 seconds for the goalkeeper to take a goal kick. And I'm turning around going, you come in every year and you say you're going to stop these things from happening, but you'll get on me for taking a quick free kick. And we want to play quick. We want to speed the game up, but you penalise me for it. But you're actually slowing the game down more. This is where I'm struggling a little bit with the rules and how it's meant to work. And of course, look, if my team was winning 1-0 and the referee was letting me take 30 seconds to take a goal kick, I'm not complaining about it, because you can get away with it. But I think there has to be something that comes in that says, every time the ball goes for a goal kick, you can't take 30 seconds every time to take a goal kick and then just pass it to your centre back, by the way, who was standing there 25 seconds ago.
Turns out you can, Fran. Turns out you can.
Yeah, you can. And look, like I said, everyone wants to time waste. Everyone is going to do their bit, but there just has to be a bit more consistency with it, because, I'm standing there and I'm watching a girl hold the throw in like this for however long. And I think it's not a good thing, because, we talk about it as players on the pitch. I'm speaking to people on the pitch going, Jesus Christ, how long is this taking? And they're going, well, we know, because we can get away with it. You can get away with it. And, it's not becoming a thing. And they keep talking about time wasting and keep talking about these things, but they're not actually addressing it, unless it's you kick the ball away and you get a yellow card. I can't run and grab the ball off the ball boy or girl because it's a disadvantage, but I want to speed the game up. But I'm penalised for it, and then it slows the game down. So it's a difficult one for me to understand. And
Yeah.
I understand that, you're going to time waste or delay or whatever it is. But for me, it's getting a bit frustrating in the 30th minute. their goalkeeper is moving the ball to the other side of the goal to take the goal kick. Then she's running back to the other side, and it just kills the game a little bit. But anyway, rant over about that. Back to the game.
I'm glad you got a point, because imagine you didn't get any. God,
Oh,
imagine
no, it would have been a
the whole
very
pod
different
would have been you
podcast.
ranting. It would
Yeah.
have been...
But yeah, I mean, obviously for us, really happy that we kind of kept fighting and we kept in it and we stayed in it. And, obviously Rosa coming off the bench, obviously disappointed probably not to start. When you want players coming in to make a difference and have that attitude to come in and go, right, okay, I didn't start the game, but I'm going to show you, I'm going to come in, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to get involved. And for her to get the goal, it's a perfect way to come in as sub. And obviously Nadine as well, getting the assist, who came on as a sub. It's great to see them moments happening. But I think in the run of play, I think we deserved a little bit more, but I did really like the way that Liverpool played and the way that they played through the lines. And I think what Beth had said previously in the podcast the week before was completely correct in terms of when they find this winning formula, when they find this way of grinding out results, I think it's just going to take care of itself, the way that they play and pass through the lines.
Yeah, they will be delighted, of course, they got their first point. And you know what is really funny is watching the game on TV and obviously getting to know you better through doing this podcast. I could tell you were frustrated. There were a couple of times you could see you getting onto the ref, which we've just heard in your rant. Also, there were a couple of times...
Never happens.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
There was a couple of other times you were talking to various players, like, move up the pitch, and you were sort of trying to like make sure your team were, keeping their structure and things like that. And I wondered what it's like for you two as best mates when you watch each other play. Can you tell just from their body language and stuff if they are, feeling it that day or having a good game or whatever?
100%. Usually you can hear Fran because she's always screaming when she's
I'm in
frustrated.
a good mood.
Yeah,
as well.
you don't want her in a bad mood. No, look, I completely agree with Fran's frustrations. I've been part of it, and I think they've obviously got the rule now that if a player goes down, 9 times out of 10, they're already getting the physios on the pitch, and then you have to do in the 30-second wait on the side. So they are. I appreciate they are trying to say, like, look, if you're going to time waste, you've got to go and stand on the side of the pitch for 30 seconds. That means your team are down to 10 for the next 30 seconds. And a lot can happen in 30 seconds. And I do appreciate the frustrations, but sadly that is part and parcel of the game. And it's all well and good when it's other teams, but when it's against your team, oh my God, it's like banging your head against the wall. The frustration, you go from 0 to 100 so fast, and it'll be arms are in the air, and it's like, constantly they're like, ref, you sure? Any danger, ref? Like, it's just constant. And unfortunately, like, we know all too well, don't we, Fran, that it is frustrating. And if the roles were reversed, we would do it, but I don't think we'd do it to some extent as what others do. Like you say, we do want to get on with the game. We do, and the point of us is playing football. But I think Liverpool are going to be so disappointed with dropping them points because, like I said, they do play beautiful football. And I think 1 point is better than none. Like, they're finally on the board with a point. As Fran alluded to, they did have ample opportunity. They probably overplayed in areas that they shouldn't have. Could have cost them more. Whereas if they actually just went more on the attack, I'm not saying to not be structurally defensively solid, but I think sometimes when you invite too many waves of pressure, when you've got players coming off the bench that Fran said are hungry to make an impact, and you make mistakes like that, that is what will define your season.
The last game to discuss from the weekend, though, West Ham versus Leicester City, which also finished a draw at 1-1. Finally, a point for West Ham as well. They got it. They got that break that we were talking about last week. What did we make of this game, Beth?
Yeah, again, another team that I don't think have necessarily been putting in terrible performances in many. They've conceded a lot, so that's tough. But I think this was a game where they're like, this is make or break now. I think there's a lot of pressure for Rhian Skinner to start and pick some points up because it's not looking good. And in terms of like their cup run has been a little bit better, dare I say it. But yeah, they really needed these points, and to allow such a late goal is just devastating when you know the pressure now is just going to keep building. The minute you get those first points, it's like the weight is lifted off your shoulder, like, right, we're on the board. I mean, 3 points is a lot better than 1. And, like, I look at the likes of Liverpool and I compare the similar situation that them and West Ham are in. Liverpool are in my opinion, play much better football. So you actually can see the light at the end of the tunnel for them. Whereas I'm looking at West Ham and I'm thinking, who's going to be that spark? I know obviously Gori came back in after a brief injury, and I think she's key for them in terms of her leadership, her energy she brings. She is so feisty. Like, that's what you need, and players like that will help lift West Ham. But they need to start and find a way of either creating more opportunities and taking them opportunities, but equally in a situation like where again they're in front, they need to be able to sustain that lead. And when you know you're chasing those points and that pressure's coming, like, the last thing you want to be doing is giving away a last minute goal in that fashion. And credit to Leicester as well, because they didn't say never. They never died. Like, they just kept going and going and going, and eventually found the weakness in West Ham's defence. And like, again, they're a team where they're sitting somewhat middle to bottom half, where they're kind of comfortable enough. They've picked up enough points, but they're still wanting more. And I think that game is kept them in a good steady place mid-table, but I do think they done well to bring the game back. But West Ham, in my opinion, really lost an opportunity that could have been so key for their season.
Yeah, also, West Ham's defending of that free kick, when I watched that back, I was so baffled. They all just stood in a line. And obviously, I'm not a professional footballer, as we know, and you guys very much are. That's not how you defend something like that. It felt like none of them knew what the plan was. And it's like, if you see things like that happening in your defence, that is a bit of a concern, isn't it?
Set pieces are a massive part of football now, and you know, I think there's a running joke in the men's game about Arsenal and how many set pieces they're scoring from, and you know, how they're attacking, how they're defending. And for me, when you get to that late in the game, it's a lapse in concentration. That is a fatigue element. You know what you're supposed to do on set pieces. You know, you work on them throughout the week. You have them pinned up in the changing room. You know what person is shouting for you to drop when the player's going up to take the free kick. You know who's going to be blocking because you've done it through the whole week. You've looked at, gone, right, this Leicester player, she blocks this player. You know, you work everything out throughout the week. So for me, it's a lapse in concentration. Yes, okay, you can talk about desire, you can talk about hunger, but everyone has the desire and hunger. It's just in the moment, who switches off? Who is switched off in that one moment that's going to cost you? And, you know, those are the fine margins now. It's who, you know, we say it when we're playing and you're possessing the ball a lot and you can see that your team's getting a little bit, you know, or a bit, I don't know what's going on here. And you just say, there'll be one moment where someone switches off. Because of fatigue, because of tiredness, because of nervousness, all of these things, there'll be one moment where a winger doesn't track back because they've switched off and they're so high up the pitch. There'll be a moment where a defender doesn't drop and one stays high and you can run through on goal. You know, there's always them moments. So for me, it just felt a sense of nervousness.
Yeah.
Like we've got to clear this, and then no one does it. That's how it felt for me watching it.
Yeah, probably agree with that. Good to see some movement though at the bottom of the table. God, I love this league, and I'm glad we get to discuss it every single week. And us three are going to be back on Friday, as I mentioned, to chat through the Champions League games. So we will see you then. Bye, you two, and goodbye, lovely listeners. Goodbye.
Goodbye.